Morning light has an almost magical quality to it, an unparalleled radiance that signals hope, renewal, and the promise of a fresh start. Before we ever set foot on the ground or open our eyes fully to greet the day, our minds are already churning through a barrage of thoughts and emotions. Some might be uplifting, others neutral, yet many can be clouded by shadows of doubt, worry, and negativity. It is often in this early sliver of dawn that we are most impressionable, when the direction of our day can be shaped by the quality of our mindset and the condition of our spirit. This is why a morning prayer against negative thinking can wield such transformative power. It is an intentional invitation to anchor ourselves in faith, optimism, and clarity before life's inevitable demands begin to pile up. It is a purposeful act of opening our minds and hearts to something greater, a sacred chance to dispel shadows that might threaten to dim our inner light. Too often we underestimate the influence of our initial thoughts upon waking. If our first mental whispers are tinted with dread, anxiety, or self-criticism, we inadvertently set a template for the rest of our day. That subtle tension can creep into our interactions, our decisions, and our perspective of every event that follows. In a world that seems to move faster each day, with global news instantly reaching our phones and a stream of data flooding our brains, the pressure to remain calm and positive can feel overwhelming. Yet no matter the noise that surrounds us, we possess an innate ability to choose our response. A morning prayer against negative thinking is more than a ritual or a set of words. It is an active statement that while we may not control every external circumstance, we can decide how we wish to engage with them. It is a declaration that optimism is not ignorance of life's challenges, but rather an inner fortitude that acknowledges hardship without surrendering to despair. We do not practice morning prayer to deny the reality of what might be difficult or uncertain. Instead, we pray precisely because those challenges exist, and because our inner narrative can shape their impact. Negativity does not merely linger in the mind. Over time, it can seep into our bodies, straining our emotional reserves, causing stress, and eroding our well-being. By centering ourselves in purposeful reflection at the start of the day, we create space for gratitude, for reflection on our blessings, and for the promise of personal growth. We remind ourselves that we have the right to approach the day with an expectation of grace rather than fear. This shift in perspective can sound subtle, but it acts as a powerful catalyst. When we consciously invite positive energy and divine guidance to occupy the forefront of our thoughts, we establish a mental and spiritual stronghold. Negativity might still attempt to find a foothold, but it is far less likely to flourish when we remain anchored in prayerful intentionality. When the alarm rings and we feel that common temptation to groan or grumble, we can instead transition into a space of deliberate quietude. Prayer becomes an instrument to reshape both heart and mind. Over time, this discipline forms a habit, and that habit evolves into a lifestyle. The introduction you are reading aims to underscore the necessity and urgency of meeting negativity with proactive compassion and unyielding faith. Throughout the body of this text, we will explore the reasons behind morning prayer, the ways in which negative thinking can be dismantled, and how a robust spiritual practice can transcend the limitations we often impose upon ourselves. We will delve into the significance of a new day's dawn, the power of spoken words, and the subtle yet impactful changes we can initiate within our daily routines. Whether you are religious or spiritual, or simply someone seeking to cultivate a healthier mindset, this exploration of morning prayer against negative thinking can serve as a foundational guide. As you journey through these reflections, remember that a prayerful morning sets a tone that resonates well beyond the sunrise. It is not merely about fleeting emotional comfort. It is about developing a resilient core that allows light to shine even when the clouds gather. By embracing and practicing a morning prayer against negative thinking, we declare our right to peace of mind. We invite tranquility and resilience to govern our reactions to external events. We declare that while challenges are inevitable, they do not have to dictate our inner climate. This introduction invites you to consider how potent a single prayer can be when it is deliberately nurtured each day. It affirms the timeless truth that though we live in a world with many uncertainties, our unwavering commitment to a more positive mindset becomes a lighthouse, illuminating the path for ourselves and often for those around us. With that foundation set, let us venture into an in-depth exploration of how a morning prayer can shield us from the swirling currents of negative thinking and usher us into a day brimming with possibility. Morning prayer holds a venerable place in many faith traditions and spiritual practices, but its value extends beyond specific doctrines. It is not restricted to a single path or belief system. Rather, it resonates as a universal approach to grounding oneself in gratitude, clarity, and self-awareness. This conscious act of starting the day with words or meditations that champion positivity reflects a vital understanding of how our minds work. Our thoughts are often most malleable in those initial minutes after waking, as the boundary between the subconscious and the conscious mind remains thin. By filling that space with affirmations of hope, kindness, and courage, we effectively shape the lens through which we perceive the world for the remainder of the day. In any morning practice, consistency is key. It may be tempting to pray only during times of intense difficulty or stress, but a daily routine fosters a sustained sense of peace and resilience. Just as we make time to nourish our bodies through breakfast, or to prepare ourselves physically by showering and dressing, we can also prioritize the nourishment of our spirit. Through a morning prayer, we remind ourselves that we are not merely physical bodies navigating tasks and schedules. We are also emotional and spiritual beings in need of constant connection and alignment with our higher purpose. When we pray against negative thinking, we acknowledge that such thinking, left unchecked, can color our actions, skew our relationships, and limit our potential. We remind ourselves that positivity is a choice rooted in faith and securities. By choosing to engage in a morning prayer, we consciously release these burdens to a higher power or to a sense of trust in the unfolding of life. Prayer does not guarantee an absence of challenges, but it equips us with a more balanced perspective. It helps us face difficulties with composure and fosters the emotional bandwidth needed to tackle life's complexities. As we speak words of gratitude, we shift our focus from what is lacking to what is already present and abundant. As we speak words of confidence, we remind ourselves that we are capable and resilient. In this way, prayer becomes a mental reset, ensuring that negative thoughts do not settle in our minds as unwelcome tenants. The key to a powerful morning prayer against negative thinking lies in sincerity. It is not enough to utter phrases without conviction. The words must arise from a genuine desire to see our day transformed from the inside out. This sincerity sparks a synergy between mind, body, and spirit, creating an environment where negative energy finds it harder to root itself. Over time, as we consistently practice this ritual, even the nature of our internal self-talk begins to change. Where once we might have been quick to judge ourselves or others, we learn to pause and infuse our observations with compassion. Where once we might have spiraled into anxieties, we instead reflect on the words of our prayer, recalling that we have asked for guidance, strength, and the wisdom to see our circumstances through a more nurturing lens. One factor that enhances the potency of morning prayer is the conscious engagement of breath. Our breath is a bridge between the tangible and the intangible, the physical and the spiritual. When we wake up, taking a few deep conscious breaths before beginning our prayer helps settle the mind and ground the body. It invites us to pause and be fully present in the moment. By focusing on the sensation of air moving in and out of our lungs, we anchor ourselves in the present, distancing our attention from any residual concerns that might have carried over from the previous night. This mindful breathing can be thought of as a prelude to prayer, opening our hearts so that the words we speak can resonate more profoundly within us. We become open to the idea that our burdens and fears can be lifted in ways we have not imagined. This surrender does not imply passivity. Rather, it is the act of releasing our controlling grip and allowing a greater wisdom to guide our path. Many people find that incorporating scriptural or affirming passages into their prayer can be tremendously helpful. Whether you lean on sacred texts from your religious tradition or choose meaningful quotes from inspirational figures, these words can bolster the intentions of your prayer. Reciting or reflecting on passages about hope, resilience, and divine guidance can anchor your mind and heart in a realm of possibility that transcends the negativity we sometimes absorb from our surroundings. The recitation of affirmations such as, "I trust in goodness to guide my day," or "I am worthy of peace and capable of growth," can help replace self-doubt and cynicism with a sense of purpose and calm resolve. Such verbal affirmations might seem simplistic at first, but their repetitive nature can etch them into your consciousness, reminding you of the ideals you strive to live by when negativity attempts to resurface. An integral aspect of prayer is its interpersonal dimension. Although prayer is frequently conceived as a private dialogue between the individual and the divine, it also indirectly shapes how we relate to others. When we consistently root out negative thinking in ourselves, we become less likely to project those thoughts onto others. This shift can enhance the atmosphere in our homes, workplaces, and communities. We grow more patient, more empathetic, and less reactive. Morning prayer, in this sense, can be seen as a ripple effect of kindness and understanding that extends well beyond our internal world. By centering ourselves in compassion and gratitude, we become catalysts for greater harmony in our relationships, since negative energy has far fewer places to fester or accumulate. As we delve deeper, we should also recognize that negative thinking is not simply a matter of having a few discouraging thoughts. It can be a pattern rooted in deep pain, trauma, or learned behavior. For many, the process of overcoming negativity requires patience, professional support, and consistent self-reflection. Morning prayer can serve as one pillar of this multifaceted journey. It offers a spiritual compass that points toward hope and release, gently encouraging us to take practical steps to improve our mental health. This could include therapy, journaling, speaking to trusted friends, or engaging in creative outlets. Prayer sets the emotional and spiritual tone. Simultaneously, practical actions help us concretize our desire to live more positively. This synergy between the spiritual and practical nurtures lasting transformation rather than fleeting moments of uplift. Setting aside a special place or time for morning prayer can reinforce its impact. While it is true that prayer can be performed anywhere, having a designated space free from distractions can enhance our ability to focus wholeheartedly on the intention of dispelling negative thoughts. This might involve a comfortable chair by a window where the sunrise can be viewed, or a simple corner of a room that has sentimental items or reminders of what you hold sacred. By creating a small sanctuary within your home, you reinforce the idea that this morning practice is not simply another chore. Instead, it becomes a sacred appointment with your inner self and your chosen spiritual connection. Over time, the mere act of entering that space can trigger a sense of calm, reassuring you that this is your allotted moment to release negativity and embrace what is life-giving. While the act of prayer can sometimes feel one-sided, many find that incorporating a moment of silent listening or after speaking their words of intention adds depth to the experience. This quiet interlude invites a subtle communication that transcends words. Sometimes, profound realizations or gentle insights can arise in this hush of the early morning. In that pause, we may realize that our prayer is not just about petitioning for protection from negative thoughts, but also about discerning the underlying roots of those thoughts. In that stillness, we may find creative solutions to problems or a renewed sense of peace about circumstances that once seemed insurmountable. The willingness to listen in prayer is a testament to the fact that a conversation with the divine or with the sacred is not merely a monologue. It is a reciprocal interaction that can heal and illuminate when we give it proper space. The morning is often hailed as a metaphorical new beginning. Each rising sun represents the chance to start over, to let go of yesterday's defeats and regrets, to step beyond the mistakes of our past. By consciously dedicating that moment to prayer, we embrace the spirit of renewal. We align ourselves with the cyclical nature of life, trusting that after darkness always comes light. After challenges can emerge new opportunities. It is within the primal beauty of dawn that we can remember that existence is a tapestry woven with change, growth, and the potential for ever-evolving hope. Negativity, while persistent, does not have the final say if we remain committed to a practice that repeatedly reminds us of our capacity for transformation. Another way to reinforce the benefits of morning prayer is to integrate it with a gratitude practice. When we begin by enumerating the aspects of life for which we are thankful, the mind shifts its focus away from what is lacking or distressing. This perspective of abundance redefines how we measure the events of the day. Negative thinking thrives when we dwell on what went wrong or what might go wrong. Gratitude, in contrast, places emphasis on what is going right. This does not dismiss legitimate challenges, but it provides a counterbalance that keeps us from being swallowed by them. Expressing gratitude in prayer also fosters humility and warmth. It underscores that life, despite its hurdles, still offers plenty of blessings and opportunities for joy. Many spiritual teachers note that prayer is most effective when it is free from rigid formulas. While structured prayers can provide a helpful framework, especially for those new to the practice, it is the sincerity of the heart that matters most. Speaking candidly from the depths of your being, honestly addressing your fears, concerns, and desires for transformation has a certain raw power that memorized words may lack. This does not mean structured prayers are without merit. They can be comforting and unifying, especially when shared within a community. Yet there is something profoundly intimate about allowing your authentic voice to surface at dawn, articulating what weighs on your mind and heart, and asking for guidance to break free from the shackles of negativity. On the days when you feel particularly burdened, your morning prayer might be lengthier or more emotional. On days when you feel lighthearted and optimistic, it might be more concise. Both forms have equal validity, as they reflect a genuine connection to your current emotional and mental state. The important point is consistency. Even if you can only spare a moment, that moment can serve as a powerful anchor. Over time, the habit of praying each morning against negative thinking becomes as reflexive as brushing your teeth. You automatically sense a need to clear your spiritual palate as you clear your mind. Prayer is also an invitation to compassion toward oneself. Negative thinking often carries a harsh inner critic that can undermine our self-worth. By bringing these thoughts into the healing light of prayer, we grant ourselves permission to be vulnerable, to admit that we sometimes struggle with self-doubt. This vulnerability can transform into strength when we recognize that it connects us to the shared human experience. Millions of people battle similar internal conflicts each day, and prayer is one way to unite with a collective yearning for peace and well-being. In this unity, we discover that we are not isolated in our quest for positivity. We are joined by countless others who also rise each morning, hoping to cultivate a mindset that fosters growth, generosity, and self-respect. The power of words in prayer cannot be overstated. Words are carriers of meaning, emotion, and energy. When we articulate our intention to resist negative thinking, we are effectively reprogramming our mental narrative. We are telling ourselves that our story does not have to be one of frustration or despair. We can speak out new possibilities, new beginnings, and new outcomes. Over time, this articulation creates a chain reaction. The mind, hearing these affirmations, begins to shift. The body, responding to the mind, starts to relax. The spirit, buoyed by faith or by a sense of connection to something grander, finds an elevated perspective. This trifecta, mind, body, spirit, coalesces into an integrated stance that resists negativity and fosters resilience. It is worth exploring some of the practical ways that prayer can intersect with other morning rituals to bolster its effectiveness. Some people choose to combine their morning prayer with gentle stretching or yoga postures that help release tension from the body. Others might find solace in writing a short journal entry after prayer, capturing any insights or reflections that surface. Still others might prefer a moment of quiet reading from an inspirational text or devotional material. These supportive practices complement morning prayer, reinforcing the message that the day can be approached with calmness, clarity, and optimism. By weaving prayer into a broader tapestry of self-care and introspection, the effects of resisting negative thinking become even more pronounced. When we speak of resisting negative thinking, we must also acknowledge that this does not mean forcing ourselves to be artificially cheerful or denying genuine emotions like sadness or disappointment. Morning prayer is not about self-deception. It's about empowerment. It is about affirming that even in sadness, we can find solace in prayer. That even in disappointment, we can find lessons that guide us to more constructive perspectives. Negativity becomes toxic when it is allowed to dominate our mindset, distorting our view of reality and eroding our sense of worth. Through prayer, we learn to process these emotions in a context of hope and trust, rather than letting them fester in isolation. Consistency in prayer also brings about a form of spiritual discernment. We become more adept at recognizing the onset of negative thoughts throughout the day. When a demoralizing idea surfaces, our habituated morning routine of prayer can act as a gentle reminder to question that thought, to determine whether it is truly aligned with our values or simply a remnant of fear. We might recall the strong words we spoke in the early hours, reminding ourselves that we choose light over darkness, faith over fear, confidence over doubt. This immediate recourse to a prayerful mindset can halt the spiral of negativity before it gains momentum, preserving our peace of mind and allowing us to respond to life circumstances with greater wisdom. Morning prayer also has a deeply personal dimension that evolves over time. As the days turn into weeks and the weeks into months, you may find your morning prayer changing in tone, substance, and length. What begins as a simple plea to ward off negative thinking can expand into broader petitions for discernment in your decisions, compassion in your interactions, and guidance in your aspirations. This evolution reflects your personal growth and the deepening of your spiritual practice. It signals that you are not merely praying out of habit, but rather engaging in an ongoing dialogue that evolves as you do. There may be mornings when negativity arrives in a particularly strong wave. Perhaps you wake up feeling overwhelmed by responsibilities, or you receive unexpected news that shakes your sense of security. These are the moments when your morning prayer is put to the test. Will you succumb to the undertow of despair, or will you stand firm in the resolve you have built through daily practice? Prayer in these situations serves as both a lifeline and a shield. It reminds you that your core identity and peace do not have to be at the mercy of external events. Even as you face trials, you can maintain an internal posture of hope and steadfastness, informed by the daily habit of turning to something greater for solace and strength. The steadfast nature of morning prayer also means that you do not have to rely solely on willpower. Often, when we try to combat negative thinking purely through mental discipline, we find ourselves exhausted. Prayer, however, introduces an element of grace. It creates a space in which our personal limitations can be transcended by divine support or by a deeper spiritual source of encouragement. This is not a passive stance, but an active invitation to let go of burdens we cannot bear alone. It acknowledges that the human heart, for all its resilience, sometimes needs the sustaining presence of love, light, and comfort that extend beyond our everyday thinking. An additional advantage of this practice lies in its simplicity. You do not need elaborate rituals or expensive tools. You do not need a perfect environment. You simply need the willingness to pause, reflect, and speak from the heart. Even if you share a busy household or have a hectic schedule, you can carve out a few quiet minutes to center yourself in prayer. The more you do it, the more you realize that those minutes can save you hours of stress and negativity throughout the day. This understanding reinforces the discipline needed to maintain the practice. In fact, there can be moments when you finish your prayer and do not immediately sense a palpable shift in your emotions. Perhaps you still feel remnants of fear or sadness. Know that this does not invalidate your prayer or its power. Sometimes the results of prayer are subtle, revealing themselves as a gradual lightening of the spirit over the course of the day, or a softening in your reactions to challenging situations. Over time, you begin to detect that these modest shifts accumulate, reshaping your inner landscape in ways that are both profound and enduring. Embracing morning prayer as a defense against negative thinking also fosters empathy for others who struggle with their own inner battles. You may come across people who react negatively to minor inconveniences, or who carry a heavy load of cynicism. Instead of judging them harshly, you might remember the times you too wrestled with gloom or anxiety. This empathy can spur you to offer a supportive word or a gesture of kindness, thereby further reducing the prevalence of negativity in your social circles. In this way, the personal practice of morning prayer can radiate outward, influencing environments and relationships for the better. Overcoming negativity is not a linear journey. There may be days when you feel victorious and days when old patterns resurface, leaving you feeling discouraged. By anchoring yourself in a routine of prayer, you grant yourself the grace to navigate these ebbs and flows without losing sight of your ultimate goal. Each new morning is an opportunity to realign yourself with your highest intentions. Each day is another chapter in the story of cultivating hope, resilience, and love in a world that can sometimes feel harsh and unpredictable. Prayer also integrates well with the scientific understanding of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections. Each time we choose positive thoughts over negative ones, each time we engage in a hopeful narrative rather than a defeatist one, we strengthen the neural pathways that support optimism and resilience. Morning prayer, by focusing our attention and intention on positive, life-affirming thoughts, expedites this shift. Our repeated daily choice to invite light into our minds helps us develop the internal wiring that sustains that light in the face of adversity. Finally, it is essential to understand that morning prayer against negative thinking is not a quick fix. It is a journey into deeper self-awareness and spiritual alignment that can take weeks, months, or even years to fully manifest its most profound effects. Yet each prayer, spoken in earnest, contributes to an ever-expanding reservoir of peace and understanding. Like drops of water that eventually carve through stone, these daily moments of communion and intentionality shape our character. They refine our perceptions and help us build a life guided by faith, compassion, and mental clarity, rather than by perpetual anxiety. Morning prayer against negative thinking is not merely a solitary act performed in isolation. It's a vital strand in the broader tapestry of spiritual and emotional well-being. By beginning each day with conscious reflection and a heartfelt plea for guidance, we set the tone for how we handle challenges and triumphs alike. The introduction of this text emphasized the urgent need for this practice in a fast-paced world that often bombards us with unsettling news and heightened stress. The body of the text explored prayer's many dimensions, from its capacity to realign our internal narrative, to its role in nurturing empathy and humility. Throughout, we have witnessed that it is not only about what words are spoken, but about the sincerity and faith that infuse those words with transformative power. In engaging with this practice, we discover that prayer is not a rigid prescription, but a flexible tool that adapts to our evolving spiritual journey. Some may choose to integrate passages from sacred texts, while others may find strength in spontaneous expressions of gratitude and hope. Regardless of the format, the unifying thread is the active decision to confront negative thinking by illuminating it with the radiance of prayerful intention. Over time, such a disciplined approach does more than chase away fleeting thoughts of self-doubt or despair. It creates a robust framework through which we can interpret our experiences, a framework anchored in resilience, trust, and unwavering love. Moreover, we see that morning prayer goes beyond a mere cerebral exercise. By involving our bodies in moments of mindful breathing and our emotions in genuine expressions of vulnerability, we engage the whole of our being. This holistic approach amplifies the potency of our prayers, allowing them to permeate every facet of our day. We stand to gain not only a more optimistic perspective, but also a deeper sense of connection to the world around us. Even the inevitable moments of struggle become learning opportunities, viewed through a lens that seeks growth rather than defeat. There's a steadfast assurance that, even on days when our hearts feel heavy or our circumstances seem unyielding, we do not stand alone in our quest for a more peaceful and hopeful life. In the end, the essence of morning prayer against negative thinking rests on a simple yet profound premise. It allows us to choose the narrative we bring into the unfolding day. While we cannot always determine what events will occur or how others might behave, we can decide how we prepare our own heart and mind. This preparation cultivates a fertile ground where negative thoughts find less traction and where positive, compassionate, and courageous impulses can thrive. It is an invitation to live intentionally, to speak kindness into the darkest recesses of our doubts, and to awaken each morning with a clear sense of possibility. As we persist in this practice, we gradually realize that our days hold more promise than peril, and that our inner light, once kindled at dawn, can illuminate our path long after the sun sets.